Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be taking a look at my first deck for 10.4, and I spent a good amount of time looking at all the dwarf cards, right? And I wanted to see, because the archetype got a complete overhaul, which cards are worth playing, which cards might be a bit of a trap. Now, if we're looking at some of the ones you'd expect me to play, Zoltan Warrior just seems like something you would want to play off the bat. However, I decided not to include him, and the reason why is because I felt like with the spawning of Rowdy Dwarfs, we have such an easy time doing it with the Dwarven Chariots, and we also have the additional 3 with the Zoltan's Company. So I didn't feel like filling the row was really that difficult, and I felt like we could do it more efficiently. And another one of the ones that I did not include was the Xavier, because I feel that it's very important to have a defender in a deck like this, because we have so many pieces that we want to protect, like all the Berserkers in like a Nilfgaard matchup, for example. We want to protect the Brewer, of course. We got to protect our resilience engines here, and then of course just everything working in the background, right? We can have the Dwarven Chariots protected, wherever the case, or we can have our point slams protected in addition to our important engines. So that's pretty much it. I didn't go with Xavier because it's a 1 point per turn engine, but where is he? Xavier's right here. Yeah, I didn't go with that because of the 1 point per turn engine. Just felt like it wasn't as necessary, right? We have plenty 1 point per turn engines and plenty huge point slams that would be almost more effective. Like the Mahakam Marauders will play for probably the ceiling of this one card by themselves, right? Because you can get these to like 12, 13 points when you slam them. Now, I didn't go ahead and include the Giantslayer because I felt like this card was a little bit expensive for what we needed, and it didn't have the tempo that I was looking for. The big way that I like to play dwarfs is come out swinging with points and look for a pass, and with this here it was very progressive, so I didn't include it. However, you can go ahead and put one in if you like. I probably wouldn't play 2 unless I was building like a whole deck around them with megascopes and all this type of funny stuff. You could do like meditating mages, but like a dwarfs deck, and that's when I think that these would really thrive. Now, a couple things that I normally include that I didn't here was the Pyrotechnician and the Dwarven Skirmisher. I think both of these would be fine options. However, this is easier to remove on the order, right? Because you're only getting 1 or you're getting 2 if it has an armor. So it's very, very simple for the opponent to remove that. Just felt like it was a little bit vulnerable. I wouldn't mind the Pyrotech, but it just came down to space. I wanted to put something in the deck as a tech for like an Echo card or something in the grave that was really important, so I felt like the Squirrel would be really good in this deck, and for that reason I dropped the Pyrotech. I think it'll play for a higher ceiling overall, and in addition to that, we don't have a Heat Wave. I don't think Heat Wave's as important now as it was before because of all the new artifacts brought to the game that could do a lot of ton of damage, ton of points, ton whatever the case may be. So I felt like in this case, because we have like no control except for a few random pings, is that we can play Yurden, and I think that's reasonable, right? Because we have a round where we just kind of shoot out the Berserkers and they do their damage and whatnot, but then we also have a round where we can just point slam that Yurden, take away all their points that they've accumulated, and we know that there's some wild combos going on right now, so as long as we can maintain last say, we get a very good Yurden, so that's why Yurden's in here. Now, to go through the deck list, I have Monroe, so this has Zeal, we can use the order right away, transform 1 allied Rowdy Dwarf into a Dwarven Berserker, which would be these ones here. So barricade at the end of your turn, damage self by 1, and damage a random enemy unit by 1. So again, 1 point per turn engine, much like the Xavier, but a bit safer because we're doing damage in this case. So I like the Berserkers quite a bit, and they're really good, especially with the provision buff down to 4. So we're able to transform 3 of our tokens into these cards here, and like I said, we get 2 off of each of the chariots, which is 4 plus the additional 3 here. We have 7 tokens. We only need to transform 3, so that's why I felt like this was as much as we needed as far as the tokens. Brewer is going to be a powerhouse of a card, and obviously going to give us a ton of points if we can keep this on the side of the board. So deploy, gain 1 armor for every dwarf in your hand, barricade, at the end of your turn, boost all dwarves with armor on this row by 1. So what you want to do is you want to get this card out there as quick as possible so that it gets a lot of armor on itself. And then obviously you want to spawn in around it so the Rowdy Dwarves can start getting boosted, right? And then just kind of fill the row so that everything on the row is getting that 1 point per turn boost. The more armor we have on things like the Broover, then the better slams that we get with things like the Mahakam Marauders, right? Because if this has 6 or 7 armor, then we're guaranteed to have 6 or 7 boost on this, which makes it 11 for 5, and it's very difficult to beat that amount of points in this game. So that's kind of the idea. You could opt for a Purify if you're finding that the Graveyard Punish isn't quite doing it for you. Maybe you put Pellar in instead, but I felt like overall, we have other win conditions besides Broover. If they have the ability to lock Broover, they probably have the ability to just remove Broover altogether. So I feel like the Defender and Broover as he is just enough. There's a lot of other things that the opponents are going to want to remove from the game, like our Resilience cards, that maybe when it gets to Broover, Broover actually just sticks, right? So that's kind of the thing. You can go, like I said, with the Pellar if you feel like it's necessary, but I didn't feel like it was that big of a deal so far. We talked about Yurden. Novigradian Justice is going to be one of our consistency tools, so we are able to play a Bronze Dwarf or Crown Splitter unit from our deck if we already control a Dwarf or Crown Splitter, also spawn a Cleaver's Muscle in the row. Now, the Cleaver's Muscle doesn't come out with any armor, however, it does come out at 5 points, so that's pretty good. You can go for just about any bronze that you feel is necessary, right? It doesn't always have to be the thinning package that you pull, because you can play one of these from hand as well. So if you want to get extra thinning value, maybe keep one of these in hand, play it from hand, play Justice for something else like a Berserker, or maybe like when the row is full, you just play a Guard and get the big boost on this one here, or even if you've already have Broover down, get the Mahakam Marauder there. It's huge tempo and huge 2-0 potential too, right? Because you're just slamming points and points and points, and these are very inexpensive. So that's kind of how you use Justice. With this deck here, because there's so many things I want to include, I had to go Royal Decree instead of Oneromancy. I think Oneromancy is probably your safer bet when you're running Dwarves overall, but I think that we're able to pull it off quite well if we have Justice, if we have Royal Decree, and if we have Mahakam Volunteers. Like, the 3 of those should just be enough thinning for the deck. So that's what we have. Play a unit from our deck is good because we don't really have specials that we're going to be searching for. So it just makes sense, and that's more of a reason too for putting Decree to put something like Yurden instead of a Heatwave, right? Defender got a little bit of a power buff. It took 7 instead of 5, and it has an order moveset to the road. This doesn't spawn a Rowdy Dwarf anymore, but I think just having a Defender with more integrity is probably for the best. Yarpen got indirectly buffed because of all the units that are giving armor right now. So on deploy, damage an enemy unit by 3, barricade at the end of your turn, lose 1 armor and boost self by that amount. Or sorry, lose all armor, boost self by that amount. So we can engine this card if we like. If we have things on the playing field like the Dwarven Chariots already, but we don't have Berserkers, for example, in that round, we can go ahead and just keep putting armor on this card every turn. Or we can go ahead and just use the miners. Let's say we float them, and then we put the boost on the Yarpen. We get that 4 armor now that we can also get additional boosts for. So you see that there's a lot of synergy going on with that play there. It's not a hard control tool, but it is a good engine plus control. So it has like that utility overall, but just pretty good value as well. So that's why he's in there. These 2 cards gain resilience. I never really want to play Gabor on ranged row unless it's 3rd round, because the immunity is quite nice. Considering we're playing a Dwarf every single turn, it's going to get that boost by 1 pretty much every single turn. But more than often, I'm going to be looking to play Gabor in round 1 or on a bleed round 2 so that we can get that carryover into round 3. I think that's the best way to do it. And then we have Zoltan, which has resilience, and deploy, we can boost adjacent Dwarves by 2. So again, this comes out with 4 armor, 5 because our leader ability, and it has resilience. So this card, along with Broover, play very well into things like the Dennis Cranmer. So this got a buff, huge rework, and deploy boost adjacent units by the amount equal to their armor. So we know that this starts with 5 because leader, right? And we can certainly just stack armor on something else beside it, play Cranmer in between, get huge boost value, and make it even more difficult for them to remove our engines. And it just works out perfectly because the armor on the Zoltan's just so strong to begin with, right? This gives us 3 volunteers if we have a Dwarf on the row, 2 otherwise. Get something down before you play it. Barclay before I wouldn't play. Barclay now is overpowered. So deploy, give each allied Dwarf 1 armor. If they already had 1 armor, or armor in general rather, boost them by 1 instead. So we get the board state really full, and we just play this to boost everything by 1. Now, if we're playing into heavy control, and we have to fix things up so that we can get better payoffs from like cards like Brewer, then we have the ability to go and just give them all an armor so that we can set that up and get that back online. So really good there. We talked about the point slams with Mahakam Marauders. These are just a thin. These are beautiful, and I'm going to play them the same way pretty much every time. So we're going to play this probably on ranged, right? So that we get this card on a different row than the dwarves. We stack melee row as like our main row, and then we get the 2 rowdy dwarves out of this card, right? But it also has that melee effect, boost self by 4 and gain 2 armor. I haven't done that effect yet. I felt like just range row with this is pretty much the way to go. And before, you know, I wasn't in love with the miners because I felt like they were a little slow in modern Gwent, but with the 4 armor that it gives now instead of the 2 armor, it makes the world of a difference because of the way we can recycle armor with the deck and other synergies. So that's pretty much it, right? And for that reason too, and with the buff to the Berserkers, it just makes sense to have 2 in the deck. They used to be 5 provision, now they're 4 provision. They start with 1 less armor, but we get 4 from the Miner, we get the Chariots and all types of stuff. So that's why we have it there. And again, talked about Squirrel for Echo or Tall Unit Punish in the Grave. And we have the Mahakam Guards, which boosts out by the number of allied dwarfs in the row. I think that we can get 2 of these in 2 good rounds. If you're finding that maybe you have 1 good guard and you're not really getting the 2nd good guard, that could be your Pellar fix. That could be whatever tech of choice in the Bronze End. There's a few that I wouldn't mind, right? I probably wouldn't go Spores because of the Yurden, but Pellar would be alright. You can do even something like that instead. If you didn't want to like use Pellar, I'd probably stick to Pellar, right? There's a ton of stuff you can go and play, but I think it's just good the way it is. That's pretty much it. I'm going to show you really quickly the consistency version of the deck. So this has a couple minor differences, right? I decided in this case because it was a little bit less Yurden-like. We can actually go and put Xavier back in, and I felt like we take Oniro instead of Decree. So this is kind of more of a traditional way to play it, but it has like no removal, and it doesn't have really any tall punish, but it sticks true to just plain dwarfs. I'll put both decks in the description for you guys so you can play either one you like. Maybe some of you guys don't want to play Yurden, but I do think that overall the Yurden version is going to be, it's going to be a bit stronger, right? Because patch week, there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on. This is how we're going to deal with it. And as far as stratagem goes, I didn't even bother to change it. I think you can do what you want. I think that you could do enchanted armor if you like. I am not opposed to that, right? Boost by 3, give it 2 armor. That's fine, right? Maybe I'll just put it there so you guys can see that on Play Gwent. But I wouldn't do Magic Lamp. That's probably the one I'd stay away from, right? Everything else is good to go. I think it's enchanted armor, crystal skull, or tactical advantage. Either way is fine. But that's how we have it here. This, I think, is going to be the most competitive version of Dwarfs right now. And let's get into the gameplay. I've got 4 games for you guys. I would have liked to include more, but I'm trying to catch up on lost time and get as many decks out as I can, right? So I'm spending most of my effort right now in making sure the cards look right. And instead of doing like 6-7 games for the gameplay, but 4 or 5 is definitely good to go as well. And if you guys enjoy the content that you see here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We actually just hit 1 million views for the channel last week. Actually, 3 days ago. So that's pretty crazy. Thank you guys for that. And I'm looking forward to what the future has. But for now, let's get into the games. Alright, for the first game, we got Scoia'tael Deadeye Ambush. And literally, this is my first game of the season, so I know as much as I knew during like my card reveal video, and even then I didn't know a lot because going back to the dev stream, it would have been nice to watch that because some of the cards had like additional things that they transform into that you didn't really get the screenshots of on Reddit. Since then, I've sort of read up on those in the deck builder, but I'm curious to see what everybody's been playing because I did not play on patch day. day Gwent is actually the most stressful Gwent, so that's why I decided to give it about 24 hours off and then just come back to it after the fact. So far it's looking pretty traditional. We can just go ahead and start stacking. And what's nice here is that if we can get one of those Mahakam Marauders down, we get 7 boost. Right, so already it's playing for 11 points. The Berserkers really make it make sense like that. And it's crazy because normally we'd be more worried about a matchup like this, but I feel like the Waylays just, they get half the value, right? We have a lot of armor, and if they go and take that, it's not a huge deal. Look at this, we're just really setting a gap so far. The passive points, we haven't used our stratagem, we've got the resilience in hand that we can go ahead and just play with the Zoltan soon. I should have mixed this drink before I started recording, but I'm gonna put a scoop of this Rogue Energy and some ice water. I'm finishing up this tub. It's black cherry flavor, tastes like cherry blasters. And I played 63 games of Gwent the other day. Like every 5 hours I was taking a scoop of this energy stuff because I played so much. Like I actually stayed up till like 6 or 7 in the morning one day playing games so I could finish that pro series. You see the Cranmer value that we get, we just start slamming cards down. Zoltan for the carryover now. We're sitting on a 22-point lead and counting because we had the passive points off the Berserker next turn. So I don't think that they're going to be able to play here. They should probably pass here. If they don't pass here, then, you know, I would probably pass here, right? Okay, I'm going to shake this bottle. I wish I could mute it. I think that's enough. We're good. We're good. But they got this new sour flavor, like Sour Patch Kids. I want to try it. That's going to be my next one. And good thing they passed, right? But here's the thing. We have so much more bleeding potential if they do pass like that. I just wanted to make sure we got the round because I didn't want to be bled with Scenario and a bunch of Waylays. But, you know, we have the round. Now we can decide what we want to do. And really just comes down to, if we put down the defender, they can't answer it, do we just play Brewer, right? And then we have the chariots to stuff the row quickly. It's just going to be tons of points, and that might even just be more than their Scenario and more than their Swarm. So depending on what they jam here tells me what we can go ahead and put. And so they didn't go for any sort of Purify, so I think that the defender's safe. So in this case, I just decided to go ahead and jam Brewer, because we're going to be getting so much value off this, right? It's 2 points this turn, but then it's just about stacking down chariots on the range row and getting those extra dwarves on the melee. That will spit out 4 combined. We can flip them, and then we can just put the guard on the end of the row and Barclay, all that great stuff, right? And so they concede. Again, they know it's going to get ugly, and it's a lot of points. We're already up quite a bit, so that'll take the game. Moving on to the second one here. We got Shield Wall, Northern Realms. And I'm just floating on Yurden here because I know it's going to be a good play in this matchup. Double Resilience from round 1. Don't love Yarpen and Shield Wall matchup. I have Royal Decree, so I decided to tuck back Yurden here because it's accessible. We have the Gabor, we have the Zoltan, we have the Brewer, so that would probably be like what I'm looking for next. I want to keep maybe Squirrel for Amphibious Assault if they have it. That's pretty much it here. So I opt to go for the Gabor and just boost them up because it is a 1 point per turn engine when we're playing Dwarfs. Also, we can maybe pass earlier and still have that card on the board. And also, you know, it makes it a little bit more difficult to duel when we get it really tall. So that's kind of the idea here. I think we have space to take a thin. Again, when I played these games, I didn't have enchanted armor in the deck. We did that after the fact, but it really wouldn't affect the way that the deck's played, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's crazy because we're, again, just dumping things here, and I'm playing against Shield Wall, so I'm expecting something a little fishy. Like, I have a feeling like they're going to have an Igni or something like that, and I know that we're going to be row stacking, so we might lose something, but the plan is to just cram points. Like, with this deck, you have to be mindful that they're going to be removing stuff, but you have to be also ready for it, because it will happen. There's going to be lots of really good tall targets in Dwarves. I think Nilfgaard would be... They should have a fun time with it too. All the statuses we have. And we do have access to the Yurden, so I'm not even worried at this point about something like Anastrenger and some engines, right? It's unfortunate that they split the row, but we're still doing okay. And I decided to go take a Cranmer here because huge swings. A little bit terrified though, because I actually missed the math on that for a second. I forgot about the Gabor passive. So the 15 for both of them would have been like a 30-point Igni. And it would have been probably the best Igni they'll ever have in their Gwent career, right? Because 2 resilience cards just makes a huge difference. So I'm trying to fix that here. So I decide we want to go and play another Dwarf, get it up to 16, so that if they remove one, we still have an answer, right? And just because I don't know, you know, when or if a tall punish is coming, I'm deciding maybe we should get out of the round here. I don't think it's worth Brewer, and they haven't played what we're looking for, obviously, for the squirrel. So that's kind of the idea here, right? And this way, even if they do punish the row or punish a unit and somehow get ahead, we have card advantage still because of the resilience cards that we have, right? One of them should stick. And they take a Yurden. I wasn't expecting Yurden here, but that's a really good Yurden still. And they just go ahead and pass on that. But like I said, they have 2 cards. We have 3, and it'll stay that way going into round 3. I think that they'll probably pass here. What I like about this deck a lot, though, is that everyone wants to try and 2-0 and whatever the case. This deck makes it more difficult for people to do that because of the resilience. And it allows us to have sort of the round we're looking for, right? If we win round 1, we can push round 1. If we don't win round 1, we can prepare for round 3. That's sort of the comforting part about it. Now, Justice would be pretty nice. And we actually managed to pull it there. So Barclay's huge points if we pull that with the Royal Decree, right? We did miss Yarpin, but I don't think it's, like I said, very important in this type of matchup. And I'm feeling pretty good about putting down an early Brewer just because they already dealt with like the Yurden, so the best part is that they're not expecting one from us. Renew for Anastrenger plays perfectly into what we're doing here. I think they might have used the charge incorrectly, or they just like maybe they meant to do it on Anna, then they did it on one of the other guys on the left side, and then they put it on Anna after. I don't know. Or they just had nothing else to put them on. Maybe that's the case. Now, I know that I'm going to be filling that row which is why I decided to put them on the ranged row, because like, we have Zoltan's company, and we have the 2 chariots, and we have Justice. So it wasn't like a misplay, it was kind of calculated that I decided to put them on ranged. But it does slow down 1 point on that turn at least. But it is what it is. That's all you can do, really. We'll flip there, we'll give it armor here. And I know it seems a little like of a contradiction to play the Berserkers in a deck that you have Yurden, but again, they could be reserved for different rounds, and also, in this case, it's not even that bad because we're hitting shields every turn, so... And it looks like they're going to play Ragnar, so obviously they're going to be getting a big boost payoff from those shields that we want to try and avoid. Looks like we'll overstack the row though if we play company on melee. It's another one of the reasons why I didn't feel that Zoltan was as necessary, right? Actually heading into the patch, I just felt like, look at our board state now, right? Having an extra few bodies on a row is like actually kind of too much. Especially if we're playing into like Nilfgaard where they have spying, so... But you can imagine this game's pretty much over. We're just finishing it just to make sure. I don't think that they have any like big curveballs for us here, but you know, it's fine. We'll go ahead and fill that row, and that's what I'm talking about. Just so many points from that one card at 6 provision. It played for, what was it, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus the 3 or 4 base power it had. It's almost 20 points. And at this point, it doesn't really matter what they go and do here, and you could see that we're only resetting 2 points on one of their cards, but we're also resetting like 40 points. You know what I mean, altogether. So I'm doing all this other stuff first because I want this game to actually finish so I can show you guys here. But now we get the extra boost, like points and boost and all that. We won by about 72 points, right? Pretty wild. Moving on to the next one, here we have Nilfgaard Imposter. And this is the side of the coin that I want to be on, right? I like the Defender early because a lot of our stuff we want to set up, we don't want them to leader. So like our Resilience play is kind of an example of that. I put back the Yurden because I didn't think I was going to need it round 1. But then as soon as they did this, I was starting to think maybe it was going to be important. But we do have Decree to tutor that, so it's not really that big of a deal, right? And it's really cool that they go and rot tosser those tokens because we have the ability to flip those. I just want to wait till the effect's already taken place so that they can't poison out a Berserker easily, right? So I think we just go ahead and stack a thin package here and maybe put some armor on something. Because I kind of want to start building an armor bank so that, you know, if we have any sort of armor payoffs, like if I pull into one of the Marauders. Huge amount of points. I think now is a pretty good time to go ahead and flip those. We'll stack it on the melee row here because we have the guard in hand, and obviously we want a pretty full row for that. And really, I could have actually taken the chariot and given the Berserker armor after the flip instead of giving it to the one of the volunteers, but it doesn't really matter. Like, we're not going to run out. We'll just go ahead and do that and keep everything safe because I want to start thinking about putting the resilient stuff down shortly. And the deck is doing what it does really well, is winning on even, right? Just putting down tons of points, making the opponent spend to catch up. So that's kind of what I have in mind here. We got Gabor down, which unfortunately gives them a boost, but we're all right. And worst case scenario, if we have to dive deep to win the round, we can just go and we can take a Yurden, right? Look at the back row there, 19 and 7. Pretty simple. We'll split the points up a little bit, and I decide honestly to take I think I take leader here just because I actually want to keep the pressure on, and I want to try and provoke them from using their leader too. Like if they take the Gabor leader here, it's a pretty good trade. There's that. This might seem kind of crazy, but I'm pretty fixed on winning here, so I'm willing to go a bit deeper into the round, play a little bit more expensive stuff. I think a play like that's just fine. We could stack the row for Brewer if we have to play him. Otherwise, the guard might just be enough to take it.
You will not regret this,
We got to be careful, though, because if we take guard, the row is full, so they have to remove something. Maybe if they poison out the Berserker, we can go and play Brewer. Otherwise, we just take, I think, company for points if it'll get us ahead. And just try and save Brewer for later. That's actually really good. So, I think it's time to just keep going, right?
Nothing like a dwarf to get you out of a tight spot.
And that'll just be enough. I don't know why the order was stuck at the beginning of the turn, but there we go. And we both get the carry over here, but we have, like, just the ability to start cramming down points. Like Justice, Company. I don't know how much value we're going to be getting from things like the Cranmer and the Marauder in this round. You know, but, golds are golds, right? I decide to put that away just because I don't think we have like a row stacking necessity here. It's probably the minor. Now, we could play like a subpar Cranmer and it's probably still enough. Like if we just boost the Cleaver's muscle or something like that. That makes it tough, because I think that they might be able to coup Zoltan here, so I decide to go ahead and boost Zoltan. And it sort of takes away some of the points that we would have had from the Cranmer, but I think it's still worth it. It doesn't really matter where I play this, because the armor comes off of it after, right? So I'm just looking at positioning here. I'm also looking at the fact that Squirrel would just get us ahead. So it feels like if I play Squirrel, we might be able to trade for golds. And really, I'm just taking away a gold. I don't think that they're going to put Vincent back in deck, but you never know. With the Sire. Seeing Philip's really good. Again, I think we're just taking at least a little bit of a tempo play here, and we might even be able to make it so that we have card advantage going into round 3, right? Kahir comes down here, this seems pretty good. Now we're just up by 4 points, they have to play their last card. And so that'll do it. Huge trade for Usurper, right? I think at this point we just win. I'm feeling really confident. Even if they have Masquerade Ball, it's going to be very difficult for them to pull the perfect amount of cards to proc it and everything. And I don't even think we want to take a mulligan at this point. Like, Yurden, just in case they play Joachim, and then just, even if they don't, we have enough points, I think, to take them down on 3 cards, is kind of the plan.
taste of Nordling, is it?
The bad part about it is I could have had the death blow if it didn't give spying to the Yarpen, and we would have just been fine. But you see what I mean here? It's looking pretty good. 14 points. We just play the minor, use the order, and just bin the Geralt in this case, and we're fine. Could have got the extra point too if I boosted the Yarpen, but we don't need more points to win the game at this point, right? Just get it done and over. So moving on to the last one here, we have another Imposter deck. And there's a lot of what you want to see in round one. Obviously, we're able to stack the row for the guards quite nice. We have the 2 resilience cards. I don't know if we need both chariots or the company. Like, we can maybe just get rid of some of that swarming stuff here. I like the Marauder because we have the Zoltan. And I'm looking at maybe just saying in this case, we'll take the Thin with the Justice and use the Volunteers. I think it's okay. Seeing Urin's not bad. Obviously, having a little bit of insight from the previous matchup, it felt like something I could keep in round one, but we do go first, so it might not be like really that important. We don't really want to use a Yrden here if we're starting off and we're just trying to tempo pass. And we'll give them very unattractive bronzes to look at. See, this is why I think Figus is going to be good right now. If there's a lot of status decks like this going around, then I think it's going to be super, super important. Just give them one more obstacle to get around before they take what they need to take from us. And sure enough, they go and take it there. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm just looking to stack armor, basically, right? I want a little bit more of a tempo play because I think it's too early to take our resilience stuff. But we have to start thinking about it shortly. Having Yen come out of the way for the defender, though, is actually just good. I guess that's fine. It's not very fast, which tells me, alright, we better start getting stuff like this down. I'm trying to split up the points on our bronzes here too, because I feel like... you know, if they do use their order, we don't want them to get like more than a point or two. So that we'll boost up Zoltan just to make it more difficult for them to remove, and then stack the armor on Zoltan as well for the Marauder, and just keep all of our units mainly at like 4 or 5 points. I was a little confused at the time, but the interaction as to why they drew a card. That's why I was just kind of looking for a second. I think we're supposed to just play, right? Just for a bit at least. It's good to see it. Something like that should be fine. And depending on what they do here on this turn, we might just pass at 7, right? Take our carryover, consider it like a bit of an advantage going into round 3. I'm just worried about them taking leader off Brewer.
I will not have you gaze at me so. May your sword and arm be
But seeing Lydia and our defender being played, like, pretty good stuff. I'm starting to think that if I continue to play, I might not get my card back. So we'll just go for a pass here. What do you guys think of the new Figus? Do you like the extra 2 points and the order to move to the other row? Or would you prefer the Rowdy Dwarf off of it? I kind of like it better this way. So they rolled into bleeding for the Gabor, which is actually pretty good for them, right? They do get those points of carryover. It will keep the bleeding going into round 3. And remember, they stuffed one of the volunteers in our deck, so we don't want to see that. And normally I don't like to contribute 2 guards to 1 round, so we'll keep it this way here. I was thinking about taking a look at monsters very shortly too. Some of the changes there really interested me, so I'm going to go for that, I think, and see how it goes. So they have a defender coming down, and I noticed that it's on melee, so I'm thinking, okay, either it's Damien, or it's going to be Kahir, or it's going to be Vachier or something like that. So we got to be careful for whatever's going to happen. And I see Kahir. So the idea is maybe if we play Brewer here, they'll look at it like free points, and they won't lock Brewer. That's like my thought process, because they're going to be getting a lot of free points from the Kahir. And since they don't expect Yurden, they might just lock it later. So that's why I played him. I just wanted to get as much value as possible, and we could just deal with the Kahir at the end of the game, right? Now, unfortunately, they go and they take that, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, if it was me, I'd probably just greet it for a little while, but I guess they don't really have any punish themselves, right? So it makes sense. Like, if they had Yen or something, still, they could use that at the end. But now we just have, like, a lot of dead tokens, basically. And this is one of those situations where Pellar would be quite nice, which is why I mentioned it as, like, an option, right? Instead of Squirrel, or I'd say maybe one of the guards, but then I find, you know, you're losing value because the guards are pretty good. So as long as we keep hitting that back row, we're good to go.
My prescription, a bit of bloodletting.
Now, the Brewer engine will turn on for them next turn, or if they just use that here, perfect with the Anna Henrietta leader. And now they're just getting all these points. The good thing, though, is that it doesn't matter, because it all gets reset anyways, including that defender down to 1 base power, right? Now I'm looking at, we have basically more than enough to fill that melee row, right? We've got the 7 cards there. We've got 2 spaces left. It's going to be Cranmer, and it's going to be the guard. So we want to put stuff like the Miner and the Marauder on the range row. That's huge. Seeing the Obsidian Mirror coming out for 3 Berserkers, quite wild. At least we do have the armor to protect us a little bit here. and I'm opting to go for this now because I feel like it's probably going to get worse. Right? It's probably going to get worse for us as the armor pings down our armor, right? If you wanted to get the most points possible out of that play, though, you'd float the miner, and then you'd basically take the leader charge off the Brewer and the miner off the Brewer so that you'd have 12 armor on it, and then basically you'd put down the Marauder afterwards and get the 12 boost on the Marauder. So huge ceiling there, but that's if you're not expecting Tall Punish at all, right? And we still don't know, so I wanted to be a little bit safer about it because I felt like Yrden would just carry, right? Here's already a 30-point reset. Now I know that there's Siri Nova, so I'm thinking, okay, like confirmed. But this game won't be close. It looks like it's not close in the wrong way right now, but we'll just be able to win it. And because I know for certain that they're not going to come in with anything else that's going to punish the Brewer, then I'm going to go ahead and take this. The only thing that they could have, though, is maybe like a Peter or like a Spores or something like that, right? Which would kind of suck, but I think at this point you take your chances and you just go with it. Diplo's not going to be enough. And I know why they didn't GG after this game. But yeah, guys, the deck works really well. It's not the most fun thing to play, but it's pretty relaxing, pretty easy to pilot, and I'd say it's pretty strong. So give it a try if you like, and we'll see you tomorrow.